Good afternoon. Thank you guys for being here today. This block we have two different tracks for the presentation. The first one is Project Management Techniques and Success. It'll be given to you by Michael Johnson. He's the urban engineer with the DOT, local government division. And we also have Brandon Barnes, the water resources engineer with Barr Engineering. All right.
All right. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to walk or not. I'm taking this out. Thanks, David, for the introduction. So today, Brandon and I are going to talk to you guys a little bit about some project management techniques and successes that we have both experienced through various avenues, working both together and separately on projects. The main kind of focus we're talking about here today is from almost like a technology standpoint that we've utilized. My clicker here. So on the DOT perspective, I'll be focusing a little bit on project management tools that we've utilized, and also be talking about improving our coordination with our consultants. That was kind of one of the main things we've been focusing on over the last 2 years in my section in local government division. How do we track projects better? How do we work together better? What can we do to improve that? And then when Brandon comes up, he's going to talk about his tools that he's used on his level, leveraging technology opportunities that he has seen. And then the main focus here that we want to kind of send home here is communication, collaboration, and obviously more communication. So in the DOT perspective, not a lot what I'm going to share today is groundbreaking. You've probably all heard of it. You maybe even all used it before. But it's not a topic that's talked about a lot. We all have our policies. We all have our manuals, our regulations that we all follow. And when those change, we all adapt with them and then we all work with them. But we never really have the conversation is like, how can I actually manage that project from step 1 to step 167 better? What is this person doing that I could grab onto and utilize? What can I share with others to make it better? We don't really have that conversation. So we wanted to share some of that information today with the group. The tools that I'm going to focus on here a little bit are technologies that we've seen related to our working from home environment. We've all had to change with the pandemic. We needed to provide improvements on how we manage projects because we're not just standing next to each other or sitting next to each other. You want a quick status update on a project, you can't stand up, go to the next cubicle and ask a question. We need to find a better way to continue that close contact coordination without always having to pick up a phone call, write an email, send a chat. What's a quick way for us to all be on the same page, all working together? So first thing we needed to figure out was what exactly were we already doing before we were all sent home? We were all working together that was either working, wasn't working, or that we could improve upon. So, like most of us in this room, I'm sure a lot of you maintain spreadsheets when you're maintaining your projects. Spreadsheets are great, super useful, a lot of tools in there, but they can be a little bit cumbersome. They get big, they get run on long, and they're hard to deal with. Emails, we all use emails on a daily basis, but some of these tools will allow us to hopefully look at email as a more focused and more collaborative approach on the high-level things, and maybe the day-to-day project management can be handled through some other avenue. Now, I'm sure you're like most of you are like me. I still have this today, and I'm trying to get better at it. I have sticky notes all over my monitors, sticky notes all over my desk, my keyboard, scratch paper that falls down, and I find it 2 months later, and whoops, forgot to do that. So we got to find a better way to try and maybe do that in this world of working from home. Everything seems to be virtual. And my memory is not what it used to be. I'm sure you can all agree with that. I can't remember the things that I need to remember, especially with increased workload, different regulations. It's hard to keep on top of everything we need to keep on top of. So dive right into the tools that I'm going to talk about. It's all part of our Office 365 suite. So when we first went home as a department, I worked with my team to utilize some of the tools available to us through our Office suite, through Microsoft Teams and its extensions. There's a lot of tools available to us. I'm sure some of you that aren't necessarily state agencies or local governments using Teams, there are many, many applications that are available. various uses, various key elements to help you with your day-to-day work. The ones I'm going to focus on today are Planner, Microsoft Planner, To Do, and then talk a little bit about lists, OneNote, and sticky notes. And I say this, I've talked about this several times at the department, giving this some information to others to hope that they can use it too. We've only scratched the surface on this as far as I'm concerned. We have all these tools available to us, but there isn't a lot of direct job-related training. It's kind of like a scratch the surface, figure out what you can do, see if it works for you. If it doesn't, test something else. If it does, okay, how can we keep building it on? And the programs that we're using and testing, we keep evolving them and working with them to see if we can make them better for us. We've made iteration changes. Hopefully this is useful for you guys and you can take it home and try and use it. I would encourage you to test these. If you have these available to you, take some time in your day to test them out, see if they can work for you. So first one is Planner. So the Planner is a great tool. That's one of the very first tools that we started using when we went home. This tool can be used in any varying forms or setups, but the basic premise is related to building yourself a system of managing tasks, projects, whatever it may be. In our case, we manage roadway projects in our section. We also manage those projects from a funding perspective. So when you see this dashboard of the Planner right here, you build the Planner in buckets. So every bucket is a fiscal year for us, fiscal year 22 and beyond. And then under each bucket, we have a tile or a card associated with a roadway project for that fiscal year. And there's different details related to each of those projects within those tiles and cards. And this helps us to kind of track all of our projects on one splash screen. There's over hundreds of projects in here. We break them out by funding program. And I'm going to kind of walk through how we utilize this tool and how it's been working for us. But kind of remember this splash screen because I'll come back to it here at the end of this part. So if I open up one of those tiles or cards, there are values that are set up in there for you to input. Now, we manage projects. So the first thing we have on there is a project number and a PCN. Most of you in here in this room are very familiar with those and are the lifeblood of DOT projects. So very first thing right off the bat. The next thing is an assignment. So when you create a planner, it's associated with a team in Microsoft Teams. So anyone that's on that team in your Microsoft team can be assigned this project. I can assign a project to myself or any one of my staff members as appropriate. I can assign it to multiple people if multiple people are working on it. The next element you'll see there are labels or color-coded tags. They're up to, I think right now, 25 tags. It started off with about 10, but now Microsoft has it up to 25. They're customizable by name. They're just different color-coded tags. We track project status using that, whether it's on schedule, behind, critical, whatever it might be. Then we can also tag them with, this is a consultant project. Is it a design division project, bridge, city, county, whatever it may be. If there's multiple tags, we can tag as many as we need to. The tags will come important here at in a little bit, and I'll explain on that. And then there's just general details related to this specific project. What bucket it's in, the progress, has it started, in progress, complete, priority, if we want to elevate a project with a certain priority. We haven't been utilizing the start date as much, but that's a default value in there that we can't change. And then the due date is our project complete date. That's a date everything's done, everything's handed in, everything's ready to go. The last thing here is the notes section. In this notes section, we utilize this to provide project information, location, limits, and then also the scope of the project. And off to the right of that box, you can see there's a little checkbox that says show on card. So that little tile or card that's on the dashboard, you can click this button and it'll show it on there so you have a general idea of project number, who it's assigned to, and then details of the project. As you scroll down on that card, the next little feature is a checklist that's built in. You can have up to 20 items on this checklist. It's customizable. It's however you want to set it up for your iteration, your process. We have templates built so that we can easily copy it from one project to the next. And we track basically the major items with a project. Field review, PSNE, CADX, project complete, CPM agreement, the big high-level items we track with this because we are limited to just the 20 items. But it's a very useful thing to just see the checklist and see the items that get crossed off as they get completed. The next item is an attachments section. The attachments is useful in identifying products or documents that you want readily available, easily accessible to that project by any user on that team that has access to it. Number one item we like to attach is our milestone report. Everybody in here knows about our milestone reports. We live and die by those. If you have important coordination related to funding or construction with an LPA or a consultant, important letter that you need to keep track of, that can also be linked in there. If the project has a website, you can also add links directly in there, so all this information is in one location for your project. The last thing on the bottom is, I think, one of the more interesting parts of the planner tool. So there's a comment section, and it's a run-on comment section. But what's unique about it is if anyone has ever seen in your Microsoft Outlook, if you're part of a Microsoft team, if you scroll down to the very bottom of your left-hand panel, there's a groups section. And under that groups section, there's an email address created for every team that you're involved in by default. So there's a team associated with that, or an email associated with that team. And then anytime myself or one of my team members comes in here, enters a project status update, the field review is held, there are questions about some of the scope items, DOT to follow up with the consultant, I hit send, it actually sends an email out to that email address, and everyone on that team can see that update and gets that notification. You could turn off those notifications too if you don't want to see them, don't want to see all of them all at once. But when it sends you that email, it actually sends you the history of every comment related to that project. It provides you a link that you can then go on and open up the project in Planner and see the details related to it, see what else maybe has been completed, what other updates the team member has made related to the project. And the last feature on the Planner that I really like, and this kind of goes back to the dashboard, is the filtering option. I think this is the most useful tool in here. It goes back to any of those variables, any of those inputs that I just went through. You can filter by any of them. If I want to see all the projects that are assigned to me, I can immediately filter it by that. If I want to see all the projects behind schedule, all the consultant projects, it's a very simple way. If I need to get a quick access to projects and a filtered list, I can do that very readily, very easily right through in here in Planner. So Planner has probably been one of the more useful ones that we've used since we've been working from home. It's been a great success for us, and we keep wanting to continue to utilize it and improve upon it. The next one is Microsoft To Do. To Do is great in the fact that it's a personal task manager and also a team task assignment manager if you're so inclined to use it that way. You can set up tasks individually for yourself. Say, for example, you needed to develop an agreement for a specific project that's outside your normal work activities. You can create this task in here that says, I need to develop this agreement, and within that task, I can have multiple layers of, I need to draft that agreement, I need to share it with others, I need to get it complete, I need it to go through legal. I can build all those steps in there for myself. You can add due dates for yourself, reminders, color coding again is available for you. You can attach files, so if you want the most up-to-date version of that agreement so you have it readily available, you can attach it right in there. And then again, a notes section. This is just an ability for you to provide run-on of notes and comments and statuses for yourself as you're going through it. This one doesn't tie to the email like the Planner, but it's a way to provide notes. You can also assign tasks to any member of your team that both you and that team member see. That team member is allowed to go in, provide updates, comments. They can assign their own tasks to themselves and have that ready available for their manager or their other team members to see and be aware of. Some of the unique features with To Do, I just went through the Planner tool and assigning projects through Planner. Right inside of To Do, there is a section called Assigned to Me, and those are directly your Planner tasks. So if you're using To Do and you have tasks set up for yourself, you can also click on the left-hand pane and see Assigned to Me, and it's all of your Planner projects right there and available for you. You can click on them and edit them right in To Do, or you can go back to Planner through them directly and update them that way. The other one is flagged emails. If you're flagging emails, if your person likes to do that in Outlook, whether it's for a reminder or due dates, those also show up right here in To Do. So every day or a couple days a week, you can open up To Do and you can have everything right in front of you for your day and for your reminders of things you need to take care of. It's a great reference, a great tool to help you with everything going on. We're always getting new tasks. We're always getting new things to do. It's a nice way to keep track of them. Next one that I talk about is Microsoft Lists. So this one we haven't done a lot with yet. I've been testing it a little bit. I don't have a full idea, concept of what it could be, but I envision it as being something that we could maybe do as a more in-depth milestone tracking process that would allow layout of our actual milestone activities, but the ability to coordinate and comment on those tasks individually right in the lists program. Give more detailed comments related to those. These lists are linkable as well, so you could also link this list right back to your planner project if you wanted to. Still doing some testing on that, but very many options available to the Microsoft lists as well. Last two I'll touch on here before I hand it to Brandon is Microsoft OneNote is a great one. Hopefully, maybe a lot of you have used that. It's great for daily note taking. That's one of the main things I use it for myself. What I like about it too is you can import your meeting details right from Outlook. It'll bring in your meeting title, your time, the attendees, any attachments. It allows you to check off the attendees and who attended, so you can see that for reference back if you need to look back at it. And then you can take general notes. And this isn't like a Word file where you're constrained to certain margins and justifications. It's a free flow document, so you can start typing anywhere you want. Throw up action items up in the corner, throw a to-do list for somebody else in the corner, whatever you want. So it's very nice format for a lot of those things. What's great about the planner, to-do, OneNote, is they're all tieable to a team. They're all tieable to a cloud environment for multiple people to interact with, both internally within your organization, within your division. Also can be expanded to be used outside entities, cities, consultants, counties, whatever it might be. The continual evolution and use of these programs and trying to figure out how we can all work together in this virtual world, I think is an amazing thing to see and be a part of and do a lot of testing. The last item that I'll note is just sticky notes. So the sticky notes on my monitor, it can literally, a program called Sticky Notes, and create those virtual sticky notes and have them ready right there on my desktop instead of having to maintain all those little stickers. So with that, that's a DOT perspective. I'm going to hand it over here to Brandon to give his consultant perspective.
All right, thanks, Michael. It's about tools that we found to be successful while collaborating with the NDDOT. Over the last couple of years, habits that we've all developed, good project management habits, communication habits, that we've developed during face-to-face interactions have become challenging and for a period really non-existent. And so in working in that environment, it's presented a unique opportunity to recommit to some of those best practices, leveraging technology and being more deliberate towards collaboration and communication. In some instances, this means dusting off old tools, formalizing the use of tools that maybe we have become routine and we hadn't thought about before the pandemic. And in other cases, it's leveraging new tools, technology, being okay with being a little bit uncomfortable, trying to apply these tools. So the next couple of slides, by all means, it's not a comprehensive list. I suspect that many of these tools and approaches will be and sound familiar to many of you in the room. But we've found that applying them in a consistent, deliberate manner has proven to be beneficial, and we suspect that as we transition from a work-at-home environment to a hybrid work environment, or perhaps majority back in the office environment, these tools will continue to prove useful. So the first one is a client service plan. This client service plan is something that we go through right after we sign a scope of work. The intent with the client service plan, it's a template to guide a conversation, to learn about what's critically important, not so much for the project, but for the point of contact that we're interfacing with on the project. We step through and ask questions about things that have no real connection to scope, schedule, budget. So I want to know for our point of contact, what keeps you up at night that's related to the project? What can't go wrong? What's your preferred method of communication? When people are working at home and they're juggling a whole number of different distractions, sometimes meetings and phone calls just aren't the best way to get a hold of somebody. I want to know if you want to be texted, if you want me to schedule meetings, and so forth. These client service plans really set us up so that we're not making assumptions on NDDOT's behalf, and that then they're distributed to the rest of the project team so that they're aware of our contacts' preferences, and then that we can continue to implement that throughout the execution phase of the project. Next thing that we found to be very beneficial is a project website. For the project that I'm working on with Michael, we've chose to use the SharePoint platform for this repository. The SharePoint platform is a Microsoft 365 site. We've used it to be a repository for all the files that we transmit back and forth. So data sources that we get from the NDDOT, from third-party stakeholders, deliverables from the consultant, meeting notes, agendas, action items. They're all stored in the SharePoint site that lives outside of the network, consultants network or NDOT network. So it can be accessed by the consultants, the DOT, and stakeholders. One of the advantages about hosting it on SharePoint is it allows for collaboration on documents. And this means that multiple users, either within the consultant organization or both between consultant and DOT, can get in and work on documents at the same time. We learned this, Michael and I learned this working through these slides for this presentation. Thinking back to the keynote speaker this morning too, I also think that one of the things that the next generation won't see is a message that documents are in read only. This setup really eliminates those messages. One of the things that we store on the SharePoint site is the project record. And for the project record in particular is the meeting notes. Meetings and meeting facilitation more specifically is one of those things that has really changed in this work from home setting. And in particular, it's the informal interactions before the meeting and after the meeting where we're tracking action items, getting informal comments, suggestions, where stakeholders may not be speaking up or feel empowered to speak up during the conversation. And what we've tried to do with our stakeholder outreach is to find a space in our meeting agendas to formalize those discussions, to encourage stakeholders to provide comments, provide suggestions, and then follow up with them afterwards. The other thing that I want to focus on with meetings is that a lot of times our calendars fill up with meetings. And so one of the things that we've done for this particular project is we've scheduled meetings with a purpose. And so we have regularly occurring project management meetings with Michael, and it's a small group where the intent of those meetings is to inform NDDOT staff of what we've been working on, what's coming up, what the change is. The goal of those meetings then is so that when we provide our biweekly status updates, there's no surprises. We have large stakeholder meetings. This one is a monthly one where we cast a wide net. The purpose of these meetings is to keep our stakeholders informed on what's going on and make sure that they have an opportunity to provide comments early in the process. And then we have very specific breakout meetings with small groups that are focused on very technical or specific aspects of the project. And with all of these, those notes go back to the SharePoint site, and then they're distributed and can be accessed by anybody that is working on the project, whether that's DOT, stakeholders, or part of the consultant team. One of the meetings I wanted to focus on here is that stakeholder engagement meeting. We have this meeting on a monthly basis. It's a reoccurring basis. And we try to cast a wide net with this meeting. So we've got representatives from a number of NDDOT divisions, municipal stakeholders, FHWA, and then a whole handful of consultants. For these meetings, for all the stakeholders, we send them out, we send agendas and presentation materials to them, and then we follow up after the meeting with notes requesting comments. Essentially, we're trying to make sure that we're gathering input along the way and so that we can readjust as necessary. What we found is that oftentimes as meeting calendars fill up during this, as calendars fill up, attendees aren't necessarily able to make the meetings, and sometimes some of the most informative comments come from attendees who weren't able to participate as part of the discussion. Finally, one of the last things that we keep on the SharePoint site is the Milestone Schedule that Michael had mentioned earlier. One of the approaches that we've taken with this is we've turned it into a living schedule. So as we continue to make progress, we're checking off milestones that are completed, we're noting what's in progress, and we're noting what is tracking behind schedule. As part of the schedule, we're also tracking assumptions and documenting which milestones the consultant team has control over meeting and catching up, and which milestones are dependent upon input from third-party stakeholders, where either the consultant team or the NDOT staff have more limited ability to get some of that information needed to complete the milestone. One of the last pieces of technology here that I thought I'd share with the group because it fits in with this theme is using the cloud-based platform for design. This is a technology that we haven't had an opportunity to implement with Michael yet, but this project that's shown is a stormwater project that was done for the Minnesota Department of Transportation on I-35W. The renderings looking south and the tanks there below the interstate are a large stormwater facility that holds 13 acre-feet of water. And the design process for this project was all done using a cloud-based platform. This allowed the designers of multiple disciplines to work within the same platform, identify conflicts, and resolve those conflicts in an ongoing basis. So it lends itself really well to the remote work environment. One of the nice things about this technology is that, again, it allowed the project team multiple disciplines to interact on the fly. It also allowed for highlighting different aspects of the project. So if the structural design team was meeting and they were discussing rebar layouts, they could focus on that and gray everything out in the background. It also eliminated the need to prepare presentations. When we had stakeholder engagement meetings, we brought up the model, and we could show the city how close the DOT sound wall anchors were to the existing city utilities. And perhaps one of the most powerful advantages of this technology was using it to leverage the QAQC process. And the process became truly that, more of a process and less of an event. Because this platform was accessible not only by the designers, but also by the reviewers and the owner, comments could be placed on the fly and then assigned to specific designers. That did a couple of things. One, it allowed the designers to catch the comments as they came in and change course and address those comments accordingly. Two, it also reduced the number of repeat comments, similar comments that came in, because as different people were reviewing the design, they could see if the comment was already made in the 3D setting and then could move on. So the designers only had to address it once. These comments lived in this 3D environment until it was time to export them out so that there could be a record of the changes that were made and the back checks that were made. And in that case, then the comments and the back checks were exported to Excel, and then they lived in the project file, or were archived in the project file. So, in summary, just wanted to recap here that the remote work environment presented certainly quite a few challenges for communication and collaboration, but it also prevented some opportunities to try new technologies and be deliberate in our approach to project management and collaboration with the NDDOT. There are some tools that were old and were implemented perhaps routinely before, and the deliberate application of those tools has proven to be successful, and we hope that they will remain successful here as we transition back to a hybrid work environment, or eventually back to an office work environment. And with that, perhaps you want to talk about the Teams application, Michael, real quick?
Thanks, Brandon. The last thing I'll touch on is something that Brandon and I have started on the project we're working together. Had to work with our IT team a little bit, and so did he. We created a Microsoft team specific for our one project. So it's an avenue for, right now, it's only an avenue for himself and me to collaborate directly through a team. Utilizing some of these tools that we've talked about here today, interacting through a different format rather than email. But it's also very important that there's project-specific, very important things that still require that email portion. So we'll transition conversations back to that format as needed. But we're excited to test that out, see how that works, and hope that goes well. And we'll maybe have some more information to share with you in the future. With that, thank you.